She wasn't trying to kill me. It was worse. She was trying to erase me, to scoop out my memories, my thoughts, my very self, until I was just a confused old man in a chair. My daughter-in-law, Lisa, wanted my house, my savings, everything I'd worked for. She thought an old man would break easily. She was about to learn that some things you can't just take. If you're listening to this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. It helps to know I'm not alone in this quiet house. My name is Robert, and this is the story of how my sanctuary became a battlefield. The silence used to be my friend. I'd sit in my armchair, close my eyes, and I could almost hear Martha humming in the kitchen. I'd remember our son David thundering down the stairs on Christmas morning, 40 years behind a government desk, saving every penny, all for this house. This piece. It was everything we built, and it was mine. Martha's been gone 5 years now. I'm 68, not ancient, but the loneliness? It's heavy. The grandfather clock in the hall ticks too loud. The floorboards creak like old bones. The silence wasn't peaceful anymore. It was just empty. I talked to Martha sometimes. The words just hung in the air, useless. And maybe that emptiness is what let the trouble in. Because when you're starving for connection, you don't always check who's offering the bread. It started slowly. Lisa, David's wife, started visiting more. She'd breeze in, smelling like expensive flowers and something sharp underneath. Always moving, always planning. She brought groceries I didn't ask for. She tidied clutter I liked. She filled the quiet with her chatter. At first, it felt like a lifeline. I was so grateful I thought she cared. I was a fool. Lisa was like a porcelain doll. Perfect hair, perfect clothes, sharp edges. David loved her drive. He was blinded by her shine. I tried to love her too, for his sake. But there was something cold behind her eyes, a calculation. When she smiled, it never quite reached them. I felt uneasy, like I was being watched, measured, and the conversation always steered toward my future. Subtle at first, but always there, waiting in the shadows. One rainy Tuesday, the mask started to slip. She sat at my kitchen table. Her nails were long and red. Tap, tap, tap on the wood. The sound grated on my nerves. "Robert, David and I are looking at investments," she said. Her voice was too sweet, like sugar-coating a bitter pill. "The market is tricky. We're trying to secure our future. Tap, tap, tap. And this big house. It's a lot for you to manage alone, isn't it?" I looked around the kitchen Martha had designed. The yellow paint was peeling near the window, Martha's spot. "It is a lot of house," I admitted. "But it's home, Lisa. It's mine." I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. I know, she said quickly. "But we need to be practical. This neighborhood is valuable now. It's about protecting your assets." Then she leaned in. The tension in the room tightened. I felt a sudden chill. She lowered her voice, her eyes wide with concern. The rain hammered against the window. The room suddenly felt too small. "And honestly, Robert, you've been forgetting things lately." The words hit me like a slap. My breath caught in my throat. It was the first time she'd said it so bluntly, so cruelly. "Forgetting things?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. The coffee cup trembled slightly in my hand. "Small things," she said, her smile tight. "Misplacing your keys, forgetting appointments. It's worrying. David's sick." She was lying, but the way she said it, so sure, so confident, it planted a seed of doubt. And that doubt was exactly what she wanted. She was starting a fire, and she was going to use the smoke to choke me. The next week it was the keys. I couldn't find them. I knew I left them on the hook by the door. I always did, but they weren't there. I searched my pockets, the desk, the little bowl on the counter. Nothing. A cold panic started to rise in my chest. Lisa arrived just as I was tearing the cushions off. The sofa. Perfect timing. "Oh, Robert, not again," she sighed, dropping her designer handbag on the chair. The sound was loud in the quiet house. She helped me search. We turned the house upside down. She kept suggesting ridiculous places. The freezer, the bathroom cabinet, under the sink. She opened the refrigerator door. The cold air spilled out. She peered inside, moving the milk carton, pretending look. Her movements were sharp, theatrical. "Did you check in here?" she asked, her voice dripping with pity. Sometimes we put things in strange places when we're distracted. Why would I put my keys in the refrigerator, Lisa? I snapped. My hands trembled. Humiliation burned in my chest. I felt foolish. Unmoored? You never know, Robert, she said gently. Too gently. Stress does funny things to the mind. An hour later, I found them. In my coat pocket. Exactly where I thought I left them after my walk. Had I missed them before? I didn't think so. But Lisa just shook her head, a sad little smile on her face. See? You need help, Robert. You really do. I felt fuzzy. Confused. Maybe she was right. The doubt was growing, spreading like a weed. Then came the dentist appointment. Monday morning, I was ready. The phone rang. The clinic, they had to reschedule. I wrote it down on the calendar. Dentist rescheduled. Lisa showed up anyway, dressed in a sharp suit, frowning. Robert, why aren't you dressed? You're going to be late for the dentist. They canceled. Lisa. I told you, I explained, pointing to the calendar. She frowned, a small crease appearing between her perfect eyebrows. She tilted her head, looking at me like I was a confused child. She walked over to the calendar, looked at it, then back at me. No, you didn't tell me, she said firmly. And the calendar is empty. I called them this morning. They are expecting you. I stared at her. Then at the calendar. The note I wrote was gone, erased. I knew they had called. I remembered the conversation. But Lisa was so convincing. My certainty wavered. I felt my face heat up with embarrassment. I must have misunderstood, I mumbled, looking down at my slippers. I felt small, stupid. It's okay, Robert, she said gently, patting my arm. The touch felt cold, calculating. We'll figure this out. I'll drive you. The drive was silent. I stared out the window, feeling the walls closing in. She was rewriting my reality, erasing my confidence. And the worst part, I was starting to believe her. But the real betrayal was still waiting in the shadows. The stove incident was the final straw in her campaign. The turning point. I was heating up some soup. The phone rang. It was David. I stepped away for a few minutes. When I came back, the burner was still on low. No smoke, no fire, just warm soup. But Lisa arrived minutes later, like she had a sixth sense for my mistakes. Or maybe she was watching the house. The thought chilled me. She rushed into the kitchen, her eyes wide with terror. A masterful performance. She spun around, her face red with fake panic, her eyes blazing. She pointed a trembling finger at the stove. Oh my God, Robert! She shrieked, rushing to the stove and turning it off dramatically. Fine? It's not fine. You forgot about it. You could have burned the house down. Her voice was shrill. Hysterical. I flinched. The accusation hit its mark. I felt overwhelmed, defeated. The fight drained out of me. She called David immediately. I heard her crying on the phone. He almost started a fire. David, she sobbed. It's getting worse. We have to do something. I'm scared, David. Scared for him. When David arrived, he looked terrified. He looked at me like I was a stranger, a dangerous stranger. My own son, looking at me with pity and fear. That silence cut deeper than any word. That hurt more than anything Lisa could ever do. She had turned my son against me, without him even realizing it. A few weeks later, they came together, the intervention. The attack. The living room felt too small, too heavy, the air thick with unspoken accusations. David wouldn't look at me. He just stared into the empty fireplace, looking for answers in the ashes. Lisa had a stack of papers on the coffee table, white and stark. They looked cold, final, conservatorship. The they'd felt ugly in my mouth. It's just a safety measure, Robert, she explained. She pointed to a paragraph with her red fingernail. It looked like a drop of blood on the page. If your memory gets worse, she continued smoothly, everything is secure. We can manage your finances. The house upkeep, you wouldn't have to worry about a thing. My stomach clenched. Managed by you? My voice was rough. And David, of course, she added quickly. She placed a hand on David's arm. Possessive. He flinched but didn't pull away. We want what's best for you. I looked at my son. David was a good man, kind, but weak. Lisa was the wind, and he was the sail. He always bent to her will. He truly believed I was failing. David finally met my eyes. The worry on his face was real. Genuine. He took a deep breath, steeling himself for what he had to say. The room was silent, save for the ticking of the grandfather clock. "Dad, she's right," David said quietly. His voice strained. "We just want to help. It's a lot of pressure on Lisa, taking care of everything. Our own finances, and yours. Their own finances." That was the truth of it. The admission hung in the air. My heart cracked. He was choosing her. He was choosing the lie. I knew they were struggling. Lisa liked expensive things. David's salary couldn't keep up. They were drowning in debt. A new car, expensive vacations, a mortgage they couldn't afford. This wasn't about protecting me. It was about robbing me. Using my own son as the weapon. I stood up slowly. My joints protested. I looked down at Lisa. Her perfect mask was in place. But I saw the greed underneath, the cold calculation in her eyes. "I am not a burden," I said, my voice rising, echoing in the quiet room. "This is my house, my life. I am perfectly capable of taking care of myself." Lisa sighed. A small, impatient sound. "Robert, please don't be difficult. We are trying to protect you from yourself." She always had an answer. Always a way to twist it back on me. "Remember the stove?" she added softly. The trump card. The final blow. I froze. I hated fighting with David. But signing away my independence, it felt like giving up. It felt like dying. It felt like betraying everything Martha and I built. "I need time to think," I said finally, pushing the papers back toward her. I couldn't look at them anymore. Lisa's smile tightened. Just for a second, a flash of anger in her eyes. Then it was gone, masked by patient understanding. "Of course, Robert. Take your time," she said sweetly. "But don't wait too long. We never know what the future holds." The words hung in the air, a threat disguised as wisdom. I knew then this was war, and I was losing. Sensing my resistance, Lisa changed tactics. The papers disappeared, replaced by suffocating kindness. The attack became subtle, insidious. She started cooking my meals, insisting I was too frail. Bland food, tasteless, like hospital food. "You need to eat healthy, Robert," she'd say, watching me eat. Judging every bite, she organized my pills. I only took a vitamin and blood pressure kitchen, but she put them in little plastic containers. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, labeled with large print. Like I was a child, like I was incompetent. She was building a cage around me, a cage made of dependence, and it was working. I was exhausted, demoralized. I started to doubt everything. Maybe I was declining, maybe I needed her. The gaslighting was a slow poison, dripping into my mind, blurring the lines between truth and fiction. I tried to see it as love, but the doubt remained, a small, cold stone in the stomach. Something was wrong, terribly wrong, but I couldn't prove it. Then the gift arrived, the weapon disguised as kindness. Saturday afternoon. I was reading in my armchair. Sunlight filtered through the window. Dust motes danced in the air. Lisa breezed in, alone. "David is working," she chirped. "I brought you something special, Dad." She held out a beautifully wrapped box. "Dad?" She rarely called me Dad. It felt strange, unsettling, a costume she was trying on. I opened the box. Inside was a sleek, silver tin, heavy, expensive, loose-leaf tea. The smell hit me immediately. Jasmine, and something else. Something bitter, earthy, unnatural. My stomach turned slightly. The smell was repulsive, cloying. "It's a very rare relaxation tea," she explained, her eyes wide and earnest. "The picture of sincerity. Imported. It's supposed to help with stress and sleep." She smiled brightly. "And it helps clear the mind." Clear the mind. The words echoed strangely in the quiet room. A sinister undertone I couldn't quite place. Tucked under the ribbon was a note. her handwriting. Precise. Elegant. I read it aloud. Only for you, Dad. To help you rest and think clearly. Love, Lisa. I was touched. Genuinely touched. Despite the nagging voice in my head screaming that something was wrong. Maybe I had misjudged her. Guilt flickered inside me. I was becoming a paranoid old man. Thank you, Bibelers. That's very thoughtful. Promise me you'll drink a cup tonight. She insisted. She placed the tin on the mantelpiece, right next to the photo of Martha. The sight made my stomach turn again. The silver tin next to Martha's smiling face. It felt obscene. It's expensive, so don't let it go to waste. She continued. Then the strange instruction, the one that set off alarm bells. Louder this time. And don't share it. It's a specific blend, just for you. Her insistence was strange. The urgency in her voice, palpable. But I was tired of fighting, tired of doubting. I will, I promise. I didn't know it then that that promise could have been my death sentence. Or worse, that night I looked at the tin. The silver gleamed in the lamplight. I opened it. The bitter smell rose to meet me. Stronger now, repulsive. I boiled the water, scooped a spoonful of the tea into a mug. I was about to pour the water, but I paused. I wasn't a tea drinker. I preferred a glass of warm milk before bed. Just like Martha used to make, the thought of her grounded me. Martha was strong, sensible. She always told me, Robert, if it smells wrong, it usually is. And this smelled wrong. The tea, the gift, the sudden concern, it all felt wrong. Trust my instincts or accept the illusion of care. I chose my instincts. I chose Martha. I put the tin back on the mantelpiece. The silver seemed tarnished now, menacing. I made myself a glass of warm milk. The familiar ritual soothed my frayed nerves. I went to sleep. Martha's memory, close by. A protective presence. I didn't know what was in that tea, but I knew I wasn't going to drink it. Until I found out the truth. The next morning I woke up feeling refreshed, clear-headed. The fuzziness that had plagued me for weeks seemed to lift. I made coffee, settled in with the newspaper. A quiet morning, a simple pleasure. Around 10 a.m., my phone buzzed. A text from Lisa. Good morning, Dad. Did you try the tea? Feeling more clear-headed today? Her eagerness was unsettling, like she was checking on an experiment, waiting for the results. I smiled grimly. The game was changing. I was about to reply when the doorbell rang. Sharp, intrusive, shattering the calm. I opened the door. Frank, Lisa's father. Frank was a gruff man, retired construction foreman. He always looked like he was carrying the weight of the world. His relationship with Lisa was strained, complicated. Resentment and disappointment simmered between them. They rarely spoke. His presence here was alarming. Robert, hope I'm not interrupting, he grumbled, rushing past me into the living room. He didn't wait for an invitation. He looked terrible, pale, drawn, rubbing his temples, trying to push the pain out of his head. Got a pounding headache. Stress, he muttered. Need to sit down. Of course, Frank. Can I get you anything? Aspirin? Water? I offered, concerned. He looked like he was about to collapse. He scanned the room, restless. His eyes landed on the mantelpiece. On the silver tin. What's that fancy tin? Tea? Yes, I said, the words heavy on my tongue. A gift from Lisa. Relaxation tea. Supposed to help clear the head. Relaxation, huh? Sounds like exactly what I need, he muttered. He was already moving toward the kitchen. Surprisingly fast for someone so unwell. Mind if I make a pot? That daughter of mine owes me something for the stress she causes. I hesitated. Only for you, Dad. Lisa's words echoed in my mind. A sinister warning. My suspicion about the tea was growing. A cold dread spreading through my veins. But if I refused him, Frank might get defensive. Reinforce Lisa's narrative that I was paranoid. I felt trapped, cornered in my own home. It's very strong, Frank. Maybe just a cup, I suggested weakly. But Frank wasn't listening. He was already in the kitchen, banging around with the kettle, the sound of running water filling the silence. A few minutes later, he emerged with a large mug of the steaming tea. He hadn't just made a cup. He had used several spoonfuls. The bitter smell was overwhelming now, clinging to the air like a shroud. My heart hammered in my chest. What was in the tea? What was I letting him do? He sat heavily on the sofa, slurping the tea loudly. He drank the entire mug quickly, eager for relief, grimacing slightly. Strong stuff, he declared, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand. Bitter, but warming. He poured himself another mug. The tin was nearly empty. I watched him drink, paralyzed by fear and indecision. I should have stopped him, but I didn't, and that decision would haunt me. If this story has your heart racing, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. Every click helps us keep uncovering stories that deserve to be heard. It helps more than you know. We chatted, mostly Frank complaining about Lisa, and that's when the truth came out. The ugly, terrible truth. The reason behind the conservatorship. The reason for the urgency. Lisa wasn't just struggling financially. She was desperate. She borrowed money, Robert. Bad money, Frank said, his voice thick with resentment. From some very unsavory people. Loan sharks. He explained she funded a high-end boutique. It was failing, miserably. She thought she was some big-shot entrepreneur. He spat. Now she's drowning. But that wasn't the worst part. The real betrayal was deeper. She used me as a guarantor, he continued, his eyes blazing with anger, without telling me the full story, without telling me how much risk there was. Now they're threatening to take my house. My house? He slammed his fist on the coffee table. The sound echoed in the room. He rubbed his temples again. The headache wasn't going away. It was getting worse. And she has the nerve to ask me for more money, he spat. An investment, she calls it. An investment in what? Her ego? My blood ran cold. The conservatorship, the gaslighting, the tea. It all made sense now. A terrifying, ugly sense. She needed my money, my house, to pay off her debts, to save herself. She wasn't trying to help me. She was trying to steal my life, to sacrifice me to save herself. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. The betrayal was deeper than I imagined. The cruelty colder. After finishing the second large mug, Frank stood up. He seemed unsteady, swaying slightly. His eyes glazed over. The change was rapid, alarming. Thanks for the tea, Robert, he mumbled, his words slurring slightly. A headache's still there, but I feel fuzzy, he chuckled. A dry, rasping sound, not laughter at all. It sounded hollow, strange. Tell Lisa I enjoyed her expensive gift. He stumbled toward the door. I should have called a cab. I should have stopped him from driving, but I was still processing the revelation, still paralyzed by the enormity of Lisa's plan, still reeling from the shock. I let him go, and that mistake nearly cost him his life. After he left, I looked at my phone, Lisa's text. Feeling more clear-headed today, the realization of what might be happening dawned on me. Cold dread spread through my veins. The horror of it paralyzing me. I had to know. I had to force her hand. I had to expose the lie. With trembling fingers, I typed out a reply. Not yet, but your father stopped by. He had a cup. I hit send. Waited. My heart pounded against my ribs. The sound deafening in the quiet room. The ticking of the grandfather clock seemed to slow down, waiting for the explosion. Seconds later, my phone rang. Lisa. I expected annoyance, anger that I shared the expensive tea. What I heard was something else entirely. Pure terror. Dad, what do you mean he had a cup? Her voice was high, strained, breathless. The polished facade was cracking, the panic underneath bleeding through. Frank stopped by with a headache. He saw the tea and helped himself, I explained, my voice cold, steady, surprising myself with my calmness. When, the word was sharp, a knife cutting through the phone line. The silence after the question was heavy, charged. About half an hour ago. Why? I asked, twisting the knife. How much did he drink? Now she was shouting. Panic. Pure, unadulterated terror. The sound of someone realizing they had made a catastrophic mistake. The sound of a plan falling apart. "He made a pot, Lisa," I said, my voice hardening. Fear replaced by cold anger. He had 2 large mugs. What is going on? Oh God, no. Whispering now. Hyperventilating. Ragged. Desperate. I have to go. Don't drink the tea, Robert. Don't touch it. Throw it away. The line went dead. I stood frozen. The silence of the house, menacing, suffocating. I looked at the silver tin. Only for you, Dad. It wasn't a gift. It was a weapon. And I just let Frank walk out the door after drinking 2 large mugs of it. Panic seized me. What had she done? What was in that tea? I needed to warn Frank. My hands shook. I fumbled for my phone, dialed his number. The ringing echoed in the empty house, each ring stretching the tension tighter. He picked up on the 5th ring. "Robert, what?" His voice was thick, slurred, barely recognizable. The change was terrifying. "Frank, the tea—" "I think there's something wrong with it," I said, trying to suppress the rising panic. Lisa just called. She sounded terrified. "Where are you?" "Driving home," he mumbled, disjointed, confused, feeling strange, dizzy. Colors are too bright. A pause. I heard the rumble of the engine, the sound of traffic, the sounds of a disaster waiting to happen. "The road is moving," his voice trailed off. Confused, lost. "Frank, pull over right now," I shouted. Urgency overriding the fear. "You're not well? Stop the car." I heard it then. A loud crash. The sickening screech of tires. The crunch of metal. The sound of destruction. And then silence. "Frank? Frank?" Nothing. The silence on the line was deafening. Absolute. I dialed 911. My voice trembled as I gave the operator Frank's approximate location. I explained he seemed disoriented, possibly poisoned. The word tasted like ash in my mouth. Poisoned. By my daughter-in-law. Then, I did something I hadn't done in years. I ran. I grabbed the silver tin. The note. Evidence. I shoved them into my coat pocket, headed for my car. Adrenaline surged through my veins. I had to get to him. I had to face the consequences of my inaction. The drive was a blur. Sirens, flashing lights. I found the accident scene first. It was worse than I imagined. Frank's car wrapped around a telephone pole. Metal twisted, broken, windshield shattered. A grotesque sculpture of violence. Paramedics were already there, working frantically. He was unconscious. Pale, bleeding from a cut on his forehead. He looked small, broken, vulnerable. I felt sick. This was my fault. I let him drink the tea. I followed the ambulance to the emergency room. My hands gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white. Frank was rushed into a trauma bay. Machines beeped and whirred. Chaos. A doctor approached me, his face grim. Dr. Chen, young, but his eyes held a weariness that spoke of long hours. He was sharp, focused. "What happened?" Dr. Chen asked, his voice calm, but urgent. "He drank some tea at my house. I believe it was poisoned," I said. Dr. Chen's eyes widened. He didn't dismiss me. He listened. "Do you have the tea?" I hesitated. A critical choice. If I withheld it as evidence, I might delay Frank's treatment. But if I handed it over, could it be lost? His life was more important than my fear. I reached into my pocket, handed the silver tin and the note to the doctor. This is it. It was a gift from his daughter. My daughter-in-law, Dr. Chen, examined the tin. The note, his expression hardened. "We'll analyze this immediately. We've called in a toxicology specialist, Dr. Thorne, and we've notified the police." Police. This was real. The walls were closing in, but not on me, on Lisa. Just then, the emergency room doors burst open. Lisa, her face frantic, eyes wild. The polished facade was gone, replaced by raw, primal fear. David was close behind her, confused, terrified, his world tilting on its axis. "My father, where is he?" Lisa cried, rushing toward the trauma bay. A nurse stopped her, a sturdy woman with kind eyes but a firm stance. Nurse Evans. Ma'am, you can't go in there right now, Nurse Evans said calmly. Lisa didn't listen. She tried to push past her. Nurse Evans stood firm. Lisa turned to me. Her eyes narrowed, the fear replaced by cold, calculating rage. She saw me not as a victim, but as an obstacle. She took a step toward me, her hands clenched into fists. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. The sounds of the hospital faded into the background. It was just me and her. What did you do, Robert? She hissed, her voice low and venomous. What did you tell them? Her audacity stunned me. The monstrous selfishness. I took a deep breath. My voice didn't shake. I felt a strange sense of calm. The calm before the storm. I told them the truth. Lisa, you drank the tea you gave me. The tea that was only for me. David stepped between us, pale eyes darting between us, searching for a lifeline. Dad, what are you saying? Lisa wouldn't. He trailed off, looking at his wife's desperate face. Lisa saw the doubt. She grabbed David's arm, her grip tight. Desperate. He's confused, David. He's been getting worse, remember? She said quickly, her voice trembling, trying to regain control of the narrative. He probably gave my father some old expired tea, she continued, the lies flowing effortlessly. Or maybe he mixed up his medications. You know how forgetful he is. She was trying to use the narrative she had so carefully constructed against me. The forgetful old man. A masterful performance. Even now, I felt a surge of anger. Hot. Sharp. I wanted to scream at her, but any outburst would only validate her claim. I had to remain calm, rational. I took a deep breath, forced the anger down. I am not confused, Lisa, I said, my voice ringing with a clarity I hadn't felt in months. I know exactly what you've been doing, and I was going to make sure everyone else knew too. The next few hours were agonizing. The waiting room, sterile, brightly lit. Frank was stabilized, but unconscious, vitals erratic. The doctors were baffled. Initial toxicology screens came back clean. We're not finding anything obvious, Mr. Harrison, Dr. Chen told us, confused. But the analysis of the tea is taking longer. Unusual compounds. Dr. Thorne is reviewing the results now, Lisa paced. A caged animal, whispering furiously to David. I heard snippets, paranoid, delusional. He's trying to turn you against me. David sat with his head in his hands, torn, the conflict tearing him apart. He suddenly stood up, confronted me, his voice raw with pain and confusion. He towered over me, his face red with emotion, his hands trembling. He looked lost, broken. Dad, why are you doing this? He cried, his voice cracking. Lisa loves you. She's been taking care of you. How could you accuse her of something so horrible? He was begging me to deny the truth, to tell him it was all a mistake. My heart broke for him, but I couldn't back down. Not now. I had to make him see, without shattering him completely. David, look at her. Really look at her, I said gently. Does she look worried about her father, or worried about herself? David looked at Lisa. She flinched under his gaze, eyes darting toward the exit, calculating her escape. The silence stretched, tense, brittle. The seed of doubt had finally taken root. Finally, Dr. Thorne arrived, the toxicology specialist, an older woman, calm, methodical. A police detective had arrived silently. Detective Miller, a tall man with a serious face. He stood by the door, a watchful presence. Then came the twist. It wasn't what I expected. It was much worse. Dr. Chen addressed us, his voice grave. This is not a typical poison, Dr. Chen announced. I leaned forward, my heart pounding. It's a rare synthesized compound, a powerful psychoactive substance. He paused, letting the words sink in. Then he delivered the devastating truth. It's designed to mimic the symptoms of rapid cognitive decline, dementia, Alzheimer's. I felt the blood drain from my face. The room spun. I reached for a chair, my legs unable to support me. She wasn't trying to kill me. She was trying to erase me. The realization was devastating. The cruelty unimaginable, if ingested in small doses over several weeks. Dr. Thorne continued, her voice clinical, precise. The victim would become increasingly confused, forgetful, disoriented, eventually incapacitated. The symptoms would appear entirely natural, Dr. Chen added, especially in an older patient. It's designed to be virtually undetectable. The pieces clicked into place, the sickening thud, the gaslighting, the stove, the keys, the appointments, the push for the conservatorship, the tea that was supposed to help me think clearly. It was a meticulously planned assassination of my mind. She wanted to take control of my assets, my life, while I was still alive, but unable to fight back. She wanted to turn me into the confused old man she pretended I already was, and she would have succeeded, if it wasn't for Frank. Mr. Harrison's father-in-law, Dr. Chen said, looking at Frank's chart, drank a massive dose all at once. A dose meant to be spread over weeks. It overloaded his system, causing the collapse. If he hadn't, Dr. Thorne concluded, we might never have known. The irony was cruel, devastating. Frank's unexpected visit had saved my mind, but nearly cost him his life, and it had exposed Lisa's monstrous plan. Her greed had become her downfall. Lisa gasped, hand flying to her mouth, her world collapsing. She quickly tried to pivot. She took a step back, her eyes darting around the room, looking for a way out. Detective Miller shifted his weight, blocking the door. "This is insane," she shrieked, her voice rising in desperation. "Robert bought that tea himself. He probably ordered it online and forgot. He's confused, Doctor. He's obsessed with the idea that I'm after his money." Grasping at straws. Reckless. The lies were desperate now, unconvincing. The desperation making her sloppy. She turned to David, pleading, tears streaming down her face. "David, tell them," she begged. "Tell them how bad he's gotten. Tell them this is all a delusion. Please, David, don't let them do this to me." David looked at his wife, disbelief and horror warring on his face, the realization finally hitting him, the full weight of her betrayal crushing him. He saw the truth now, the ugly, terrible truth. He had been manipulated. We all had. Detective Miller stepped forward, his presence dominating the room. "Mrs. Harrison," he said calmly, his voice firm, "we'll need to ask you some questions. Down at the station." The game was over, and she had lost everything. The climax arrived not with shouting, but with a quiet, devastating clarity. We were in a small family room, sterile. Me, David, and Detective Miller. Lisa was being questioned in another room. The detective summarized the situation, voice neutral, firm. The toxicology report confirms the presence of the synthesized compound in the tea, in Mr. Frank's system. He paused, looking at his notes. "We also have preliminary evidence from her computer. Mrs. Harrison purchased the compound on the dark web. We found emails detailing her financial troubles, the threats from the loan sharks. The motive is clear." David stared at the floor, face etched with pain. He looked broken, hollowed out, just like I would have been. He took a shuddering breath, his shoulders shaking. The silence stretched, broken only by his quiet sobbing. He wiped his face with his hands, smearing the tears. "I believed her," David whispered. Hoarse, tears falling freely now. "I thought she was helping you, Dad. I thought you were really sick." He looked up, his eyes red-rimmed, tormented. "I was ready to sign those papers. I was ready to commit you." The admission hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. My heart ached for him. The admission hit me hard, a physical blow. I had been so close to losing everything. Not just my house, but my son. My mind, "She was very convincing, David," I said, my voice heavy with sadness. I reached out, placed a hand on his shoulder. He flinched. The touch unfamiliar. Strained. "She used your love for me against us both. She exploited your fear." Just then, the door opened. Lisa walked in, flanked by another officer, hands cuffed behind her back. Pale, but defiant. The mask firmly back in place. "This is a misunderstanding," she announced. Voice cold, sharp. I admit I bought the compound, but it wasn't a poison. She looked straight at me, a flicker of malice in her eyes. It was a cognitive enhancer, a supplement. I was trying to help Robert with his memory loss. It was an accident with my father, a clever lie, a desperate attempt to twist the truth. A cognitive enhancer? Detective Miller asked skeptically. The lab report suggests otherwise. This compound causes cognitive impairment. It's highly toxic. The report is wrong, Lisa insisted. Or the dosage was wrong. I was just trying to help. She turned to David one last time. David, tell them how worried I was. Tell them I loved him. David looked at her, expression hardening, finally seeing her clearly. The ambition, the greed, the ruthless manipulation, the absence of love. I couldn't stay silent. My heart was broken, but my resolve was steel. I reached into my pocket, pulled out the small, handwritten note. The final piece of the puzzle. If you were trying to help me, Lisa, why the secrecy? I asked, my voice ringing with strength. I handed the note to the detective. He read it aloud, the words hanging in the air like a death sentence. Only for you, Dad, to help you rest and think clearly. Love, Lisa. I stepped closer to her, looking her straight in the eye, refusing to look away, forcing her to confront the reality of her actions. The silence stretched, taut and brittle. Why only for you? I pressed, my voice unwavering. Why not share this miracle supplement with David? With your father? Why the insistence that I drink it every night, in secret? Silence. Absolute. Lisa's face crumpled, the mask shattered, revealing the desperation and malice underneath. She had no answer. The lie dissolved. David looked at the note, then at his wife, finally at me. The truth, undeniable, the betrayal complete. How could you, David choked out, voice raw with pain, strangled. He's my father. You were going to destroy his mind. For money. Lisa didn't answer, stared at the floor, defeated. As the detective led her away, she looked back at David, a flicker of desperation, a silent plea, but he turned away. The connection severed, the love gone, replaced by a cold, empty void. The fallout was immediate, devastating. Lisa was charged with attempted poisoning, elder abuse, fraud. She pleaded guilty, but the calculated cruelty of her actions ensured a lengthy prison sentence. The story became a local scandal, a cautionary tale about greed and vulnerability. Frank slowly recovered, but the ordeal left him weakened. Frail, the psychoactive compound caused lingering cognitive issues, a cruel reminder of his daughter's betrayal. He lost his house. He moved in with me, two old men who had survived the storm, navigating the wreckage of our families, finding an unexpected bond in our shared trauma. The relationship between me and David was strained, perhaps irreparably broken. Trust, once shattered, is a fragile thing. He filed for divorce. Messy, painful. He was consumed by guilt, struggling to forgive himself for believing Lisa's lies, for almost betraying me. We spoke often, conversations stilted, careful, haunted by the ghost. What had almost happened. Strangers learning to be family again. I should have known, Dad, he said one evening, months later, sitting on the porch, watching the sunset. I should have protected you. You were blinded, David, I said, my heart aching for him, for the innocence he had lost. She was very good at what she did. Love can be a weapon, too. We sat in silence, the space between us filled with grief and the slow, painful process of healing. A year later, I sat in my quiet living room. The grandfather clock ticked in the hall, a steady, reassuring rhythm. The silence was still empty, but it no longer felt menacing. It felt safe, peaceful. My sanctuary again. I looked at the mantelpiece, the space where the silver tin had sat. I had won. I had protected my home, my life, my mind. But the victory was hollow. It had cost me the illusion of a happy family. It had cost my son his future. I realized then that the deepest wounds are not inflicted by strangers, but by those closest to us. Trust, once broken, is rarely fully restored. I picked up the photo of Martha, her smiling face radiating warmth. I missed her terribly, but I knew she would be proud. I had trusted my gut, I had faced the darkness, and survived. And as I sat there in the quiet solitude of my home, I finally understood that true strength is not measured by what we gain, but by what we refuse to lose. Thanks for listening. Please rate our story in the comment. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe. Your support means a lot because your time matters.